The old ones say it happened in a time that now lies only in a faded memory. They say it happened in a land that was tucked away in the British Isles, up in a corner, a land wrinkled with hills, draped in forests of mystery, and a land crawling with marvelous and eerie stories. It began with a king, King Herle by name, a lesser king of a lesser kingdom, but he was a king nonetheless. On a fateful day, he and his men galloped out across the meadow toward the distant dark shapes that lay grazing near the forest's edge. Do you feel it in the air, men? There's a strange aura. It bodes well for the hunt. Yes, we shall feast tonight. Onward, men! Ha! And they galloped. Those distant dark shapes, wild boar could feel the rumbling of the ground beneath them, turned, and they squealed and then plunged deeper into the forest, their tusks and their bristling hide glinting in the hot sunlight. After them, man, divide up, one to a man. Anyone who brings back their prey gets a prize. Come on. Orwin, you stay with me. There are two straight ahead. And so they divided up. Orwin and the king followed hot after two of them, winding their way back and forth, deeper and deeper into the forest, trying to dodge the branches that threatened to snap and whip at their heads, until they were getting closer and closer, and then the rip made them draw up short and turn, and the water skin had ripped to shreds, spilling its precious contents down, splashing onto the ground. Ah, fie on that! And, whoa! He reached out and laid a hand upon his friend. For right up upon a ridge, he saw something strange. Do my eyes deceive me? Is that a trick of light, Orwin? Do I spy a white boar?
Ah, yes. Oh, why, yes, Your Majesty. I do think I see it.
The white boar was a talisman, a portal, it was rumored, between this realm and the next. It was said that anyone who could catch or kill the white boar would have power stripped away from the boar, and he himself could then freely roam from this world to the next at will. I have heard the rumors, but I've never seen it. He shall be ours, yes. Let's get him. Keep close. Ah! They rode up the hill toward the ridge, and the great white boar turned. And with its eyes blazing menacingly, it dove down the back of the ridge and led him on a merry chase. The chase went on and on, up and down, over ridge, until King Herle had left his man far behind in quite a distance. He could see he was getting closer and closer. He drew his spear up ready to strike, and then his horse took a spill, throwing him. He went rolling down onto the soft earth, but quickly sprang up with his spear ready. As he looked out, that wild boar turned, his eyes blazing, and charged straight toward him. Yes, come! Come, one of us shall die now! Now it seemed to strike that white boar with its bristling hide. At least it seemed to. But the light glinted in his eye and blinded him for just a split second, so he couldn't tell. He heard that, but when he looked, the white boar was charging, full bore toward him, so hard that he had to leap out of the way as it thundered past, leapt over a stream, and then vanished into the foliage. King Herle picked himself up, suddenly drained completely of energy, feeling very weak. Ah, why am I so tired? My water cannot give me any quench of thirst. Ah, I shall go to the stream. He stumbled his way over to the stream, knelt down, cupped his hand, and as he reached down to scoop up that sparkling liquid, strangely, it vanished, sinking into the rocks. But when he withdrew his hand, it gurgled and bubbled up again. Is this some enchantment? No, surely not. It must be playing tricks upon my mind. He reached down again, and again it sank. When he pulled back, again it gurgled and bubbled up. Several times, again and again, he tried to scoop up some water, and again it eluded him, until finally he grabbed a stone, threw it in, and the sparkling liquid seemed to laugh mockingly. So he slumped down to the ground and buried his head in his hands. Now time seemed to shift. How long he sat there, he couldn't quite tell. Was it a minute, 10, an hour? He couldn't tell. But he was finally shaken from his reverie by a voice.
King Herla, what ails thee, King?
His eyes flew open to see right across the stream a strange sight. There stood a white goat with little nubs for its horns, and astride him on his back sat, well, what appeared to be a dwarf. A short little man with reddish hair and red beard, a golden circlet about his crown, and where his hooves should have been, or where his feet should have been, there were hooves, cloven hooves like the goat's. How do you know my name?
We are brothers, we two, for you are a king of this upper realm, and I am a king of another realm.
Ah, I see.
Yes, and King Herla, we are brothers. What ails thee?
Ah, I thirst. I am so weak.
You need this?
In his outstretched hand appeared a golden chalice filled to the brim with sparkling liquid. Oh, yes. Please hand it over.
I cannot reach across this stream. Why don't you step across? And if you will make a pact with me, it shall be yours.
And the king drew back, suspicious for a moment. What is this pledge or pact that we would make between us? We brothers, as you say.
It is nothing much. Simply that each of us pledges to attend each other's wedding. You come to mine and I come to yours when the time comes.
That seemed a harmless enough agreement. So, after thinking it over a minute, he agreed. He stepped across. They clasped hands, arm in arm, one with another. Oh, yes, please, give it to me now. And he drank right down to the last drop, having, as men have done since the beginning of time, sold away a distant future in exchange to satisfy a fleeting thirst. The dwarf king watched him intently.
Yes, oh good. Now, King, do you see yonder mount? It is, as you know, Cader Idris, swirling in mystery. My realm, or the entrance to it, lies at the eastern slope, down by the lake where there is a great slab of stone. Listen carefully. When the time comes, simply bang on the stone, and we will give you passage into my realm.
Just then they heard Orwood King Herla's companion, call for him.
I must leave. Until again we meet, brother.
And then he disappeared into the brush. King Herla married that very autumn, when the crisp autumn morning was thick in the air and everything was festive and merry. Inside the great feasting hall, there was the music of dancing feet that raised high up to the rafters overhead, and it was interrupted right in the midst as the queen herself, looking as lovely as an autumn leaf, glided into the very center and began to dance. She glided back and forth, attracting the eye of every man there, from the oldest down to the youngest, making more than a few women jealous and wrinkling their nose. But the queen's eyes were glazed only in love for her husband, who sat upon his throne, and she shot him seductive glances, until at last she'd finished, and she made her way beside him on her own throne. Then again the music and the dancing resumed, and all was festive and merry, until the doors at the far end swung open. In came the Dwarf King, with a few of his men, each of them with a burden upon their backs. Hello. Now, even though they had heard rumors of dwarves, none of them had ever actually seen one in the flesh. So there was a ripple of excited whispers that ran throughout the hall as the dwarves made their way right up to the thrones, dropped their chests, opened them up to reveal quite a gift of treasure.
It is for you, newlyweds. Look, gold and silver from our realm, and here, jewels of every color for you, that you may have a long and lustrous life. And queen, for you we have a special gift.
He reached in and pulled out a large scarlet ruby, hung to a circlet of gold.
Lean down that I may clasp it about you, lovely queen.
The queen immediately did so. She politely leaned down as the Dwarf King reached up and then shut it. And the queen felt the lock click and immediately felt a shudder through her body. But she sat upright on her throne and then watched as the dwarf made his way into that great crowd, and they began telling tales one with another. She eyed him nervously, feeling ill at ease crawling up her skin and tickled the back of her mind, until finally she stood.
My guests are many friends and strangers. I would tell a tale to you, if I may, dear husband.
He nodded his assent, and she began.